All right, so tonight, this is going to be the project we're making. It is a little mini 3x3 explosion card. How cool is that? So we'll wait a few more minutes for folks to join. Just want to make sure that the feed is live, and if you hear that noise in the background, it's my golden retriever making herself a bed on the hardwood floor. Silly dog. Ooh. Say hi if you're here, and I'd love it if you'd share my live broadcast with your friends, see if they want to join us to watch us live. So this is a really cool explosion card. It's actually called a Turkish map fold, and what I love about it is it's deceiving because it fits in this little compact size card, and then all of a sudden the magic happens when you go to open it. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways to do this card. One is I tucked in these corners here so we could kind of show off the two sides of our beautiful designer series paper. And the sample that I'll make during the live broadcast, I will show you without folding those corners over. So I'll show you two different ways. But again, this card measures 3 inches by 3 inches. And it's just a super sweet card. I thought this would be kind of a fun little card to give to someone when you meet them for coffee. And it just says hi on the front. And on the inside, happiness is a cup of coffee shared with a friend. Ain't that the truth? So I thought that was really cool. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm also going to show you how to make the sweet envelope. It is a little bit of a tight fit, but once you put the card in and out a few times, it will fit pretty nicely. So hi, Carrie from North Carolina. Thanks for joining. So my name is Julie DiMatteo from thepaperpixie.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I absolutely love paper crafting and inspiring others to make projects. This really has been, for the last 7 years of my life, one of my greatest joys, paper crafting, and I absolutely love sharing it with you. So thank you all for joining. I'm going to go ahead and get started here. We are going to use a pattern from the Coffee Break Designer Series paper, and it just has some really cool colors and patterns in this paper pack. It is a 12 by 12, and you get 2 of each double-sided pattern, which is a great bargain. And we're going to go ahead and use for the inside this blue kind of herringbone pattern that has this really cool coffee bean, and I think those are, I'm assuming those are coffee leaves on the back side with that soft suede. So for the inside of this card, we are going to start with a piece of designer series paper that measures 6 inches by 6 inches. I do want to let you know that after this broadcast, I will post this video to my Facebook page. I will also put a link to the blog post in the description of the video. This blog post will go live tomorrow morning at thepaperpixie.com, and it will have all the details with measurements and that sort of thing. So don't feel like you need to write it all down during this live broadcast. That will all be on my blog post that will post tomorrow, and I'll be sure to share that link. So what we're going to do first before we fold is do some stamping. Now I'm going to bring in my grid paper here because I want to try to get the stamp as close to the center as I can, and I am just, let's see, using this guide here to kind of center my paper. Now let me make sure that I am right in the center there. I'm doing the center to make sure it's centered on the video, and we're going to use the stamp set Coffee Cafe. I love this stamp set. It has some really, really cool stamp images in it. Love the sentiment, happiness is a cup of coffee shared with a friend. So we're going to stamp that in early espresso. And again, I'm just eyeballing to get this in the center. All right, I'm just eyeballing right in the center. We want that in the center so that when you open the explosion card, that sentiment is right in the middle. There we go. All right, I think that's dry. I'm going to leave my grid paper out because I'm also going to use this as a tool again with a couple of the folds. So now what we're going to do is fold this in half backwards, so away from where we stamped the sentiment. And a handy tool is to have a bone folder here to make those folds very crisp. Okay, so we're going to do that line in the center, and then I'm going to fold corner to corner. So a diagonal fold here. You're not going to believe how easy this explosion card is. It looks like it's so complicated, but it really is very easy. So corner to corner, and then again on the opposite side, corner to corner. If y'all have any questions during the live broadcast, feel free to ask. I am watching for those questions to come through. And if I happen to miss any, I will catch them on after the broadcast and address them then. Okay, so we've kind of got this. We're not going to do the vertical score line. We're just doing the horizontal and the two diagonals. And I'm going to go ahead and fold in the inside here so we have this triangular shape like this. All right. So now I'm going to use the grid paper again, and I'm just using this center line so that I can line up the point with the center here. I just want to make sure that that I know where the center is, and I'm going to fold this bottom corner to the center. And we're going to do that on both sides, also on the front and the back. Okay, I'm going to go and bring my bone folder, make those folds nice and sharp. I'm going to flip that over and do the same thing. I'm lining that up in the center. Just to help me eyeball, we're going to fold this corner to the center. And then again from the other side. So we kind of have this shape that looks kind of like a baseball home plate. All right. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're actually going to pop out these corners and then pop them in. And I'm going to do that on all four in case you didn't catch that. So popping this out and then popping this back in on itself. So it still looks the same, but now those pieces are underneath. I'm going to flip it over and do the same on the other side. All right, so you're going to have something that looks like this. You see that? And I'm just going to bring in my bone folder, make sure all those edges are nice and crisp. And then when you go to open it, watch what happens. Woohoo! How cool is that? I love it. This is a Turkish map fold, also known as an explosion card. And we are going to put this inside a little 3x3 card base. All right, so I'm going to bring in a template really quick, because you may not be able to see what those folds look like on the paper. I created this template here. And so this is basically where we put the score lines. Now, I didn't use any scoring tools or anything. This was all created just by folding, edge to edge, corner to corner. So that's what this is, that fold. And again, it's called the Turkish map fold. All right, so I will have a picture of this up on my blog post just so you kind of know what it looks like. Now the next thing we're going to do is I have a piece of garden green. I can take my grid paper out of the way. Garden green cardstock that measures 3 inches by 6 inches, and we have it scored in the center at 3 inches. And the trick with scoring, many people don't know this, but you actually fold away from the score line. So this is the valley of my score line. You want to fold away from the valley, and that is going to give your paper a nice crisp finish on the fold on the outside as well as on the inside. Okay, so we folded that in half. Now we're going to go ahead and essentially we're placing this right on the inside of this card, and it just fits. So we started with a 6-inch by 6-inch piece of paper, and by folding it the way we did, it basically put it to essentially a 3-inch by 3-inch piece, and that's going to fit right on the inside of our card. So I'm going to bring in some mono multi-purpose glue, our liquid multi-purpose glue, and I do want to make sure, okay, so there's my sentiment. This is going to be the back. So we're going to do the back first, and I just put a bead of glue all the way around the outside as well as all on the inside, just to make sure that that adheres really well. Liquid glue is great for this because you have an opportunity to slide the paper around to where you need it. And again, I am just lining up this along the bottom edge of the card. Pressing down, okay? And then last, we're going to go ahead and put glue on this side. Okay, and then just going to close my card there and press down for that glue to adhere. All right, so watch. Now we open the card and woohoo! All right, so here's the difference. So this one I did slightly differently. On this one, I chose to also fold in these corners. So I matched up this corner with that inside intersection of score lines, and it gave this different finish. So see how those corners are folded in? Kind of two different versions of this. I like both. I kind of like how you can see both sides of the paper on this one, but I also like how cool this looks open when I didn't fold in the corners. So different options. The other really cool thing about this project is you can make this any size you want. Essentially, the rule of thumb is you start with a square piece of paper. And as long as you fold it the way that I showed you how to fold this, it doesn't matter what size it is. You can make this card much bigger. This was a 6x6 piece, so it folded down to a 3x3. It basically cuts it in half. So if you wanted to do a square 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 card, you would start with a square of 8 1/2, if that makes sense. In some cases, or I should say, you could also use a printer paper, because that will not give this card quite as much thickness, so that's another option. But again, I do love our designer series paper, and it actually fits really well with this card. I chose a pattern that I could stamp on, and it would also give me the opportunity to write a little note in here as well if I wanted to. So that's the inside, that's the basics of the explosion card. So now we're gonna decorate the outside. And I took inspiration from the Coffee Break Designer Series paper. So we've got a little bit of a different pattern, should say different colorway, same pattern as what's on the inside. And then I'm going to show you a couple cool things with the coordinating die set as well. So first and foremost, we're going to go ahead and get our paper layers together. This is Early Espresso, and it measures 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. I think that's right. Yes, 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. Then I have our piece of Pattern Designer Series paper, and this measures 2 1/2 by 2 1/2. Let me double check that really quick. Yes, 2 1/2 by 2 1/2. I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. And that's just going to give us, we've got a little bit of an 1/8 of an inch border of Early Espresso around that pattern. I'm going to go ahead and glue that to the front. And again, that's going to be another 1/8 of an inch edge with the garden green to the Early Espresso. All right. The next thing I did was I cut a heart out of Soft Sky. I gotta look. Yes, Soft Sky cardstock. And I used our Sweet and Sassy Framelits dies. And I used the, let's see, the third smallest heart with this. And we're gonna go ahead and stamp a couple of Early Espresso coffee beans. Very fitting. Coffee beans and Early Espresso. I'm just gonna stamp those off onto the little edge of the heart. Okay. Then I cut out a little teeny tiny coffee cup. Now this looks like I may have stamped it, but believe it or not, it comes from the Designer Series paper, the Coffee Break Designer Series paper. And there's a die, coordinating die set that comes with the Coffee Cafe stamp set. You can buy both of these separate, but if you buy them bundled together, you get them at a 10% discount. But within the coffee cups framelits is this teeny tiny coffee cup die, and that fits perfectly around the small coffee cups that are in this designer series paper. How cool is that? So I just cut one of those out. I love how it has the little soft sky heart. And I'm going to go ahead with a couple of glue dots on the back of that. You could also use liquid glue. And I'm just going to put that a little bit of an angle there. Just building like a little collage of images here. And then I'm going to stamp a little hi in early espresso. Thank you to everyone joining on the live broadcast. I appreciate it. I've seen a few of you pop in and tell me where you're from. Thank you. All right, so we stamped a hi, and I'm going to punch that out with the 1/2 inch circle punch, teeny tiny circle punch, perfect for that little sentiment. And then we're going to pop that on the front of this little vignette here with a mini Stampin' Dimensional. These are new in the catalog. I love them. Sometimes our regular dimensionals are just too big. And I'm going to go ahead and pop that on the front there. Okay. So now, let me look at my sample so I remember. I'm going to do a couple of loops with the, well, now I can never remember the name of this. Linen thread. I love this linen thread. Perfect for a neutral. I've got a little trick for you. So there's going to be a couple of kinks in the linen thread here. Let me get my ink pads out of the way. And so it's kinked because it's wrapped around this piece of cardboard. So the trick to that is just take your bone folder and run it along there to get those kinks out. You'll get a little bit of a curl to it, but the curl looks better than the kinks in my opinion. So we're going to go ahead and just cut off, I don't know, that's probably about 12 inches in length maybe, I'm just guesstimating. And I'm just going to put a little bit of adhesive. This is Fast Fuse. Just a little bit. It's going to be hidden by the heart. But I'm going to, let's see, wrap this around my fingers and then a couple of my fingers so I get some different varying lengths. Just making some loop-de-loops here. No rhyme or reason to it. It's always going to look different. And just stick that right on the front. And I'm sticking it right into that adhesive that I stuck on there. Just so that linen thread kind of peeks behind our little vignette of images here. All right, so I'm going to pop those up on dimensionals. If I can find my dimensionals, here they are. Just put a couple of those on the back of the heart. And pop that on the front. Super cute. How sweet would that be? Meet a friend for coffee and then leave them with this teeny tiny 3x3 mini card that is just full of surprises. This explosion card. How cool is that? Again, for those of you just joining, this is called a Turkish map fold. It's very easy to do, and we did it without having to use any scoring tools or anything. So if you missed how to do it, you can always watch the replay. So next I'm going to create a really quick envelope, custom envelope, using our designer series paper from the Coffee Break, the Coffee Break designer series paper. And I chose the striped pattern because on the inside it's got this pattern of coffee rings. All right, so let's see. I'm going to use the envelope punch board. And I don't know if y'all are aware, but on the envelope punch board, if you don't have it already, which you gotta have it, it's $20, one of the best tools in my toolkit. I use it all the time. You can use this punch board for way more than just envelopes. You can make boxes, bows, so many different things. So if you don't have it, make sure you put it on your wish list. But on here, there is this little guide where you can look up the card size that you're trying to create an envelope for. So this is the 3x3. And if I go onto here, a 3x3 card requires a 5 1/4 inch square piece of paper. So this is 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. And it says that our first score line needs to be done at the 2 5/8 inch mark. So with the built-in scoring tool, I'm going to line up this edge to 2 5/8, and I'm going to go ahead and punch and score. And all you need to know is just that one measurement, because when you rotate it, and I rotate it counterclockwise, you then line up this little score line guide along that score line we just made, and we punch and score. And we'll do that all the way around. Now it just so happens, because this is a square piece of paper, that it's always going to be at the 2 5/8 inch mark all the way around. All right, so we have something that looks like this. Now what's very cool is the back side of this punch board has a reverse punch, which will round our corners for us. Gives us just a nice finish for that envelope. Okay, and I'm just going to bring in my bone folder and fold on all those score lines, fold and burnish. Okay, now next, I'm just going to take some adhesive, and since this is square, it does not matter where we, which flaps we choose. So I'm just going to go ahead and put adhesive along this edge here, along this edge as well. Fold in the sides and then the bottom. And then we actually have a custom envelope to fit a 3 by 3 inch card. And this card has a little bit of thickness, so this is going to be a tight fit. If you wanted to make a larger envelope, you certainly could. But once you get the card in there a couple of times, it fits really well. So there we go, a really sweet gift to give to someone. And so let me go ahead. For those of you that have recently joined, I'm just going to review very quickly. So what we created tonight was an explosion card. This card measures 3 inches by 3 inches, and when you open the card, it goes like that. How cool is that? I love this project. Again, this is 3 inches by 3 inches. We used a 6-inch square piece of designer series paper. The trick with this, you can always change the size of this card if you wanted to make a card that was bigger or smaller. The rule of thumb is that if you want a 3-inch by 3-inch card, you start with a 6-inch square piece of designer series paper. So if you wanted a 4 1/4 inch square, you'd start with an 8 1/2 inch piece of designer series paper. So very cool. Turkish map fold explosion card. We did it 2 different ways. So this one has all of the corners outwards, and this one has all of the corners folded inwards, so you kind of get both sides of that designer series paper. So does anyone have any questions? Feel free to ask them now. I'm going to get ready to wrap up for the evening. So super sweet. Again, this came from the Coffee Cafe Suite, and we used the Coffee Cafe stamp set, which is a photopolymer stamp set. We used the Coffee Cups Framelits dies, along with the coordinating Coffee Break Designer Series paper. And we used the die to cut out this really cool mini coffee cup. So thank you all so much for joining tonight. If you're interested in purchasing any of the products I used in today's video, you can visit me at thepaperpixie.com. I will have a blog post specifically for this project posting tomorrow morning at 5:00 a.m. Eastern Time. It will have all the details of products I used, measurements, etc. I will also include a template of what the score lines will look like when you create this project yourself. And as always, I would love to see your projects if you try this yourself, and post to social media with the hashtag #PaperPixie. So hashtag #PaperPixie. I will look out for your projects. Can't wait to see what you create. And again, thank you so much. We've got some really cool specials that are coming out starting July 1st, so that's here in just a few days. And I want to wish all of you a very, very happy 4th of July. Enjoy celebrating with your friends and family. Enjoy some time off. And thanks again for tuning in to the Paper Pixie. Take care. Y'all have a blessed day. Bye.